The first time Commander Jonah Vale refused the Queen of Orin, the throne chamber forgot how to breathe. One moment the court glowed with ritual light and jeweled silence. The next, a human officer from a war-scarred planet had looked into the face of the feared monarch and said, "No, not softly, not nervously, but with the calm finality of a man refusing to cross a line he had drawn long before he entered a palace." The nobles stared as if language itself had broken. Because queens were obeyed, especially Queen Sarathis, whose fleets had ended rebellions and whose judgments could ruin bloodlines older than human civilization. Yet Jonah stood in black service armor and did not bend. Princess Illyra, seated below the throne in silk, felt something she had not expected, not shock, but interest. Because every man she had ever known at court knew how to kneel, and she had spent her life watching polished cowards mistake obedience for honor. Then the human spoke again. "I will defend your people, your majesty. I will die for this world if I must, but I will not burn a civilian quarter to trap 12 insurgents. Not for your crown, not for mine, not for anyone." And in that instant, the court understood the true insult. He had not refused from weakness. He had refused from conviction. That was the moment the princess stopped seeing a human officer and started seeing the only honest man in the chamber. The rebellion in Varick City had hit 3 districts. Insurgents were hiding in the old market labyrinth, and Sarathis wanted a purge strike before dawn. Fire from the sky, total collapse, survivors sorted later. Illyra had reviewed the intelligence herself and found the numbers wrong. The market was packed with families and refugees, but every advisor around the throne had echoed the queen anyway. Some from fear, some from ambition, none from truth. Jonah had been summoned because his battle group specialized in urban extraction. Sarathis had assumed such talent would be useful so long as it stayed obedient. Now she rose from the throne. "Do you mistake this palace for a republic, Commander?" she asked. Jonah did not blink. "No, Your Majesty. That is exactly the problem." Gasps swept the chamber. 2 guards shifted forward, and Illyra felt her pulse hammer. Because the human was either the bravest man in the Empire or the most suicidal, perhaps both. Sarathis stepped closer. "You presume morality above sovereignty," she said. Jonah answered. "I presume civilians deserve not to die because their rulers are impatient." And for the first time, Illyra saw her mother fail to dominate a room by will alone. Palaces survive insult, they do not survive truth nearly as well. Sarathis ordered Jonah confined. Yet before the guards could take him, the palace defense grid screamed. Red light flooded the hall, and the tactosphere bloomed with live fire across the capital. The market reports were bait. Their true strike had already begun at the northern shield pylons if those fell. Enemy cruisers hidden beyond the moonline would have a direct corridor into the heart of Orin. The court collapsed into noise, admirals shouting, nobles trying to flee. And through all of it, Jonah moved first. Not away from danger, but toward the tactical table. He mapped the attack in seconds and snapped orders at officers who outranked him twice over. Lock the transit bridges, vent Sector 11. Reroute med transports under the Western Viaduct. Pull every drone from ceremonial duty and give me eyes over the pylons now. They obeyed before remembering they were supposed to resent being commanded by a prisoner. Because competence has a voice older than rank. When Sarathis told him sharply that he had no authority, Jonah did not even turn. "Then give me responsibility," he said. "Because your authority is losing the city, the words should have cost him his life." Instead, they bought him a heartbeat of stunned silence. Illyra used it. She crossed the chamber and said, "Let the human prove which matters most." The queen hated being cornered in public, but she hated failure more. Finally, she gave one clipped order, "Go." Jonah did not bow. He ran, and Illyra, against command, followed him into the burning night. Respect is not born in safety. It is forged where fear meets character and loses. They reached the northern pylons under artillery glare. Insurgents had seeded the support towers with breach charges, while civilians stampeded through the lower causeways. Jonah absorbed the scene once and changed the response. Instead of engaging the strongest hostile cluster, he blew the bridge beneath them, isolating the trigger teams from their backup. Then send half the armored column not toward battle, but toward evacuation. Because dead enemies did not matter if the city died with them. Alira fought beside him through smoke and fractured metal. Saw him drag a wounded signaler from a collapsing stairwell. Saw him take a bolt across the side and keep moving. At the primary pylon, he found the main detonator, linked to a dead man circuit wired through a terrified courier. One captain ordered the boy shot immediately. Jonah shoved the rifle aside so hard the officer slammed into the wall. "Nobody dies for your convenience tonight," he growled. Then disarmed the charge by hand while rounds chewed sparks around them. Alira covered him, heart thundering, and understood at last why his refusal in the throne room had felt so different. He was not resisting for pride or spectacle. He simply would not let power make him smaller inside. When the last charge went cold, and the enemy advance collapsed under the redirected defense guns, dawn bled over Orin, the city still standing. Jonah dropped to one knee from blood loss and exhaustion, and Alira caught him before he hit the steel deck later, back in the throne chamber. Queen Sarathis asked him why he had disobeyed when obedience would have saved his career. Jonah looked at the throne, then at the princess beside it, and answered, "Because orders can own my rank, your majesty. But if I let them own my conscience, then I am not fit to wear either." The chamber fell silent again. But this time it was different, and when Princess Alira met his eyes, the respect there was no longer hidden. Everyone had seen a human refuse the queen. Only she had understood what that refusal truly was. Not rebellion, not insolence, but the rarest kind of strength in any empire. The kind that kneels to duty and to nothing less.